Okay, so it is 1 o'clock. We have just a couple of slides to go through, but I want to make sure that we have enough time for conversation and or questions. So I'm going to go ahead and start the session. If this is the first time that you've joined an EBSCO webinar, we do record the session, so you will have an opportunity to replay it at a later time or access it. Also, from a housekeeping perspective, definitely feel free to use your chat box to ask questions at any time. We have a moderator, Rachel Freeman, who will capture those questions and make sure that they get posed and asked. If it's a question that we can't answer during the session, we definitely want to, again, capture that and make sure that we get you a response. I think that your lines are going to be muted out, but the chat will work. And then at the end of the session, when we have the question and answer, we can definitely unmute those lines as well. So to begin, my name is Chappie Floyd. I am the Vice President of Discovery Solutions with EBSCO Publishing. A little bit about EBSCO. We're one of the largest private companies in the United States, serving more than 100,000 institutions with a variety of products. One of the real important paradigm shifts when we're dealing with this presentation, especially talking about things like ILS partnerships, is that over the years we've changed drastically from just being a database or a subscriptions provider to more of a software solutions provider. So we're very well positioned for a lot of the changes that have happened in the marketplace, including having a proprietary platform like EBSCO Host that's been purpose-built for the types of electronic data delivery that we're seeing today, whether it be journals, magazines, ebooks, catalogs, or institutional repositories. And we've received a lot of awards both off of our financial capability as well as our private company leadership. But with that platform of EBSCO Host, we have a collection of products and services that have over the past few years, probably about the past 5 years, really come together in offering a solution that we typically will term discovery service or web scale discovery solution or software as a service, as opposed to the way we used to term things, be it more database, subscription, A to Z list, things of that nature. So the nice thing about a plethora of products and services that we offer is that we cover multiple disciplines and facets, whether it's science, technical, medical, or business content, whether it's news information or journals and magazines. Again, even the ability to have your own internal content like catalogs and institutional repositories. And we cover the gambit with the types of institutions that we deliver this information for, whether it's academic, corporations, hospitals. In fact, there's a large list of the types of customers that we support. So that's important because what you'll see as I go through this presentation and these topics is that the real value of the information is being able to find and get to the information. So different industries have different needs, and you need to have a platform or a capability that matches your need set. Sometimes in one corporation, you'll have a good example is I have a petroleum company that while petroleum research is a major part of their value, they also have a clinical health aspect. They also have internal documents. They have white papers. They have repositories that are not publicly available. So again, depending on your business in your industry, you might have different needs for different solutions. We just feel very comfortable that Discovery and EBSCO provide a lot of these types of solutions to a lot of companies like yours, whether it's from our research perspective, learning perspective, health solutions, soft skills, ebooks, things of that nature. Something we're very well suited at doing. So with that being said, and with the understanding of who we are as a company, I really want to talk to the benefit that we bring when conducting your research. So where we're really skilled is increasing the corporate library research center's visibility and footprint throughout your organization. I assume because you're attending this webinar, and this is one of our many webinars that we've conducted. We've done previous webinars on getting the return on investment from your research. We've done webinars on the layers of research that can be found with something like a EBSCO Discovery Service. This specific webinar is on the interoperability between our platform and your ILS, or your integrated library system. And the reason why we're doing this particular webinar is because in most corporate organizations, the catalog, or the ILS, is a staple point of being a repository for that internal knowledge and those holdings that are representative of your intellectual property. Think about it. If you go to something like Google and you conduct a search, that search is indiscriminate of your actual industry, of your actual direction. But when you go into your catalog, it is 100% representative of the holdings that you've built over time, of the requests that you've received from the patrons that you serve, and of the direction that your company is looking to go from an intellectual perspective. So obviously, with that being a staple point of where your knowledge base is going to go and gather to conduct research, you want to ensure that your time is being spent wisely, that people are able to find those relevant results. I typically will use the term finding a needle in a haystack of needles, regardless of where that information comes from. You're going to want additional capabilities from that research, things like being able to create alerts so that you can proactively receive any additional information that comes. In certain situations, that information needs to be competitive. In others, it might be research-based. Regardless of the need case, you want to make sure you have a platform that can serve all of your patrons. You also want to make sure that you can take that platform and that usability and insert it in a way that matches the workflow of your patrons. Typically, when I start these conversations with our corporate customers, I am introduced to, say, a web page that has a list of URLs. And it is kind of this list of URLs that their researchers will initially begin their search and select the proper URL based off of the search that they intend to conduct. In many cases, that is not the most efficient way to not only conduct the search, but introduce your researchers to new tools that you've acquired. Maybe you've acquired another company, maybe you've acquired a new resource. In any case, we definitely look at this holistically as not just the value of the resources that you have internally and the value of those resources like your business results, SWOT analysis, and research papers in magazines, but also what is the workflow or the integration that allows access to that research to be easier for your users to get to. All of this, though, in the context of this call, is really secondary to raising the visibility and the viability of your internal resources. If you have a catalog, like I mentioned earlier, or if you have an internal repository, or if you're part of an organization that has multiple catalogs and repositories, your researchers want to be able to conduct a search and pull back results, but also have those results be ranked by some sort of relevancy or have some idea of the context of those results based off of their search needs. So that's the challenge that we have as knowledge professionals. Information research can be costly and only valuable if the time spent finding that information is productive. So one of the things that EBSCO has been fortunate to spend quite a lot of time in capability understanding is what is required to conduct research, how is the information analyzed when it's returned, what changes need to be made in order to better fit the goal of this particular knowledge center. While we've had the EBSCO host platform for quite some time, and again, for customers that are familiar with EBSCO, you've probably searched on that platform. If you haven't, you will see the baseline of EBSCO host in my presentation in a few moments, in my demonstration. But while we've had that for a long time, EBSCO host as a platform, similar to pretty much any other platform you would access, is very static. It is built for a specific purpose and for our usage. But when you get into a lot of the corporate environments that we experience, it becomes necessary for you to open up your access, especially when you're dealing with your ILS or your library system. The other reality is you may, over the time of your tenure at an organization, have to select different ILS systems. Again, I used the example earlier of an acquisition or a merger. Maybe you're managing multiple ILL systems because of a merger that's happened, and that's not going to change for a period of time. So again, that same need is there to be able to integrate these disparate sources. So one of the things that we developed a while ago that is really the foundation of the presentation and the demonstration that I'm going to conduct for you in a moment is our API suite. So API is the application program interface. And the way I try to explain this for people that are new to some of the software and technical aspects of what we deliver is if you think of something like Netflix. Netflix is a movie delivery service. How do you access Netflix? Some people will actually have a TV that has it built in. So they simply go to the Netflix app, they click on it, and their movies are delivered. Others are very comfortable with going to the website, www.netflix.com. Put in your information, and now you have the same access to that same suite of movies, albeit through a different interface. This continues to grow as you look at your smartphones or your tablets or your Roku devices or your Apple TVs. The concept is that you should be able to access the movies through different interfaces. And those interfaces are specific to your needs. Well, that's what we're talking about with EBSCO. The EBSCO API Suite constitutes a set of APIs that facilitate workflows between external third-party applications and EBSCO applications. The APIs are central to the realizing of EBSCO's vision of an open technology ecosystem. It's this interoperability that really empowers us to be unique in this marketplace. So I talked earlier about our discovery service. And if you're not familiar with what a discovery service is, it is a comprehensive index of journals, ebooks, and magazines. So where your holdings information or your library is a selection of items that you have specifically populated. Once you have a need for a search beyond your holdings, that's where discovery layer becomes very valuable. It gives you the ability to search analogous to, say, a Google or PubMed, depending on your industry, and to pull back results that are relevant. What EBSCO brings to the table is the most comprehensive index of journals, magazines, and ebooks. So when you're conducting your search on our platform, you're going to get back a set of results that are extremely relevant and cater to any subscriptions that you have or journals that you offer or databases that you have. But in addition to pulling back that comprehensive indexing of journals, magazines, and ebooks, we also have the ability to integrate solutions like Blacklight, III, ViewFind, SirsiDynix, and Koha as some examples of the ILSs that work with our solution. So for the next few minutes, what I want to do is kind of take you through some examples of the ways you can integrate these two very functional components so that the end result is something that your users will be able to use, will show value for the resources that you've acquired, and give you a platform that you could actually brand and build on as you go forward. Now, there's a couple things that are important to note, though. This is something we've been doing for quite a while. So what's different and why are we having this presentation? Well, the first example I'm going to show you is one of our traditional types of deployments. The United Nations is one of the few corporate customers that we can use in a presentation because they have a publicly accessible site. With the exception of the United Nations, the other sites that I'm going to use in this demonstration are going to be our academic sites. Again, they have publicly facing access. With the United Nations, as with most of our customers, we typically will do what's called an export of your MARC records into our platform so that it can then be indexed along with those journals, magazines, and ebooks. And the end result is you're able to conduct one search in one interface, but pull back results from different places. Now, while that's very functional and works for a lot of customers, there are also customers that have a challenge, say, because of manpower. So the exporting of that information becomes arduous. Or they have a platform that doesn't allow for exporting, just the way it's built. Or maybe they're an entity that doesn't allow their information to be outside of their network or firewall. So again, I'll show you kind of the current way that things are done, and we'll talk to some of those other usage case challenges. So at United Nations, and again, this is a publicly accessible site. In fact, all the sites I'm going to show you are publicly accessible. I can conduct a search on something like leadership in speeches, and they have this second tab called Books, Articles, and More. Basically, this is running on our Discovery Service, and they've gone through the process that I mentioned earlier, where they've taken their catalog of information and they have integrated it into the Discovery platform. So what you see in front of you now is our EBSCO host platform. You can tell that it's EBSCO host because a lot of things will continue to look familiar as I progress through this presentation. It has the search history, advanced search, and the basic search. It's got our facets here to the left. So I have the ability from my list of results here, the 184. I can see that I've been able to search even within the full text of the articles. I can see that I'm conducting a Boolean search. I can change the date of my results. All of these are built on the EBSCO host platform. So again, to use the analogy that I started off with, like Netflix, this would be your TV that has it built in. You can't update your TV. You can't make a change to it. It's different than the web page example that I also used. So this is what EBSCO host looks like. And this is running our Discovery Service so that in addition to getting journals and magazines about this particular search for leadership in speeches, I also have catalog information. So I can see that this particular book is available. I can see where it's located at in the library, etc. There's a couple things, though, that I can't do. I, for instance, can't check out that book through Discovery Service. This platform reveals the results, but it doesn't allow me to really engage on the results. So because of that reason, one of the things that we've been able to do is work with those ILS providers that I showed you earlier, so your ViewFinds, your SirsiDynix, your III, so that we can come up with solutions that better integrate the two platforms. One of them that I'll show you now is the University of San Diego. So they also have this single search box. Behind it is both their catalog and Discovery Service. One of the things that you'll notice here is instead of having a long list of resources, well, in addition to having a long list of resources, theirs actually isn't very long. I've seen that are much longer than this. But they do break up the traditional kind of search, databases, article search, and an A to Z list, so you can do that here. But they really influence and encourage their users to go here and just simply conduct a single search. So I'll put in that same search of leadership in speeches. Now, something different happens when I do this for San Diego. First off, notice that I don't have the search history or the advanced search or the basic search fields like I did here with the United Nations. The reason for that is this result list is not happening on the EBSCO host platform. This is actually coming from the III platform. So what it has done is it has conducted a search for both the catalog, so these are the books, as well as, parallel to that, conducted a search of Discovery Service and pulled back any results regarding those journals, magazines, or the holdings information and put them all into a single interface page that I can go between my catalog results and my article results. So this is very functional. Now I am not having to look at my results and then leave this platform to go someplace else to actually interact with them. I can both pull down my full text of information from my articles. I can request a book because I am now within my library system. So I want to take you through another example of innovative where we are doing the same search. So this is going to be leadership in speeches. This is using the Encore Duet platform. So basically what that means is similar to the previous search that I did with San Diego, is we have taken Discovery Service using our API and we've pulled it into Encore as the search interface. That means that if your users are comfortable with their OPAC, with their interface, you can continue to use their interface and conduct your searches. Now, different than the previous one, where if I go back to University of San Diego, it actually gave me segregated results. It gave me one tab for my catalog, a second tab for my journals. With this particular one, everything is integrated. I can see that from my Encore, I have 3 results, and from my Discovery Service, I have 220,000. As I scroll through this list, I can see one of the books from Encore has been integrated within my list of results from Discovery Service. If I want to limit to just the catalog results, I can simply click on that, and now I just have those 3 relevant catalog results in this interface. So it's very easy to ensure that, depending on your usage case, a solution can be delivered that matches it, whether you want to have segregated tabs, whether you want to have everything integrated, whether you want to do different branding, things of that nature. Let's move a little bit further. So this is another deployment of SirsiDynix for their cloud-based system. This is called Blue Cloud. So if you're familiar with that or you've already used it, this is where you're pushing your catalog out into the cloud. It makes it very easy to update, especially if you have multiple locations, so people can add or make changes very easily. It gives you a page that you can also brand and customize. But when you're conducting your search, it has the ability to, again, within its interface, pull in resources not just from EBSCO's Discovery Service, but from other resources as well. So here, I'll do that exact same search. Again, I'm not going to have my results coming back off of EBSCO host. As you can see, this looks very different than that original search page that I got from the United Nations. Here, my results have come back, and while I do have them segregated, so I've got my search results for the catalogs on one tab and my Discovery Service results on another tab, you can see that the customization and the branding here has gone to a much higher level. It's much more graphical. It's much more engaging for the users. I'm really taking advantage of the different facet capabilities that are part of Sirsi, but I'm not at all losing any of the indexing capabilities that comes from Discovery Service. All the facets are here. It's just as if I were using the EBSCO host platform, but I have all the benefit of it being integrated with my Sirsi OPAC. That also means that from here, I can request a book. I can do anything that my actual ILS allows me to do. Now, if this is one example of what we can do with a web-based service integrated with Sirsi, I want to show you another example as well. This is a place that we're really excited because we're able to now increase that visibility even further. So this is another version of the Sirsi Blue Cloud where we've even integrated in what were typically EBSCO host-only capabilities, like our research starters. This is like a Wikipedia, if you will, for conducting research. So when you put in a search term, it's going to give you back a encyclopedia type of entry. But instead of being Wikipedia, which is, again, contributed by multiple people, this is coming from validated sources and authenticated sources. Another capability that we have along with this ILS is our journal exact match placard. So in this case, I have the benefit of not only pulling back my books and information from my catalog, but I have a visual indicator that, wait a second, we have this journal as part of our holdings. Along with the results that I have down here for other information, I can go directly and search just this one journal, or I can click on this link and I can review the other articles from that journal. Building on that value proposition that you want to raise the visibility of your resources, this is highly customized, highly branded, and highly valuable information, all from a single search interface, retaining all the value of Discovery's indexing, retaining all the value of the Sirsi ILS. In addition to ILSs like SirsiDynix, there are also open access resources that we work very well with. So as an example of that, University of Virginia Library, they use ViewFind. So similar to the other ones that I showed, they prefer to have a start page that does give you a couple of links to different resources. In the past, where you would pretty much have to go to the Explore All Research resources in order to really get the scope of what Discovery Service can bring, you're no longer required to do that. You have this one search box here at the top. Simply populate your search, and now you're searching not only the ViewFind catalog, but also your Discovery Service. Now, they've chosen to pull the results back in a little bit different way. Instead of having a tab, they write both the results side by side. So you can kind of scroll down, and either you pay attention to your catalog side, you pay attention to your article side. Again, everything's going to be ranked by relevancy. If you would like to simply see one of those two types of data, you can simply select it here at the top. Again, now I have all the facets and the capability that I had initially with the UN demonstration, but I'm in the ViewFind ILS. The last one of these examples that I want to show you is Koha. Koha is also an open source, open access ILS that's pretty popular. With them, we can do the exact same thing, give you the ability to conduct a search, and within that search, cover both your ILS catalog and your Discovery Service. The value here is for those individuals that have to maintain your holdings, have to maintain your catalog. You're doing that in one place. We're maintaining all of our indexing and information, and using our API, we're simply pulling that in so that your users have an experience that raises the visibility of your resources, can expose them to things that they might not have selected from one of those URL types of solutions, and just making sure that the most relevant results are what they're making decisions off of, as opposed to the ones that they're, or the platforms that they're most familiar with searching. So this is from Koha. So up to this point, I've tried to make sure that we really explored the difference between our traditional types of platform search, which are conducted on our EBSCO host. The value here is that I get very relevant results from the indexing. I have links presented to me so that I can get to the full text. And I do have the ability to at least see my catalog information. But what I miss out on, because this is an updated or an integrated set of metadata, is I can't actively pull a request for that for that letter, for that book. I can't check it in, check it out, etc. So that's where we have the ability to then change the interface so that we're now using your multiple options based off of your choice for an ILS provider and pulling those results directly into there. The other nice thing about this is you have a lot of say in the graphics and the branding, so that can help you win the mind share of your users, make sure that you're putting first and foremost the information that means the most for your user base. As you can see here on this one, we have the Research Starters placard, we have the Journal placard. You didn't see that on the other ones. This one we highlight the results in yellow, whereas here we don't highlight results at all. So with that being the case, and everything that I just presented there is pretty revolutionary when it comes to, I think, the goal that I started with is how do I raise the visibility of our resources and integrate those holdings that we've valued and spent a lot of time curating. But what else is there? So there's the ability, and a couple of our customers have taken advantage of this, where you can remove all the restrictions of your interface in your search, where your ILS, your Discovery Service, your internal repository, and any other resources that are of value to you can all be controlled in an environment that you have 100% ownership of. I'm going to show you two examples here. One is the University of Prince Edward Isle. Again, just to get us on the same page, if I do a search here for leadership, what I expect to see is my EBSCO host type of results that we had with the United Nations. So again, I've got my search results here. My first result is Leadership by Brian Tracy. In this case, they have uploaded their catalog, so I have the ability to kind of go directly to that. But again, I can't request it or anything else. And then down here, I have my other results as well, my journals, magazines, things of that nature. And it's all in this one result list, which is pretty standard for everything else that I showed you. Everything kind of comes in one result list. However, if I go back to the Prince Edwards page, I did that search in their OneSearch. That's what they call Discovery Service. I could also go into their catalog and conduct a search. This would be SirsiDynix, and I would get the same type of result that you saw with the catalog piece. But what they've done is they've created what's called an all search. So now using the API capability, not just from us, but also from the ILS, using the API from their internal resources, so they have an IR. They have some other websites that no one else indexes, so they wanted all that information together. Now I can conduct that same search for leadership, and it is pulling the results from multiple places into a single page. This page is representative not only of my results coming from Discovery Service, so these are my articles here, it actually segregated my results by the source type. So I have my journal articles here, but that book that we saw, Leadership Brian Tracy, has been populated in this Books and Media box. I typically refer to these as bento boxes. So it allows you to not only pull back the results that are relevant, but then to segregate them so that your users can very quickly focus their attention based off of what it is that they're trying to find. It even has the ability to reach out to other resources like your internal catalog or websites that have absolutely nothing to do with our indexing, but you want to make sure that they're visible to your users. I'll show you another example. This one I think is kind of these are my two favorites. Rice University, same concept. So they have the ability to do individualized searches for their WorldCat catalog, for their Discovery Service, for their SirsiDynix, or you can do their one search. If I type in leadership, using the API again, it pulls back all the results into a very easy to read page that they've branded. They can keep the attention of the user. They've got the links for the PDF full text right here. They can go to their catalog information right over here. So their ILS is completely integrated. They can see if there's copies available. They can request copies. All of the power and functionality that was lost on the EBSCO host platform alone they have here. They have the ability to search other databases and content that has nothing to do with our resources, but it's all together in one page of results. So I think the key that we're wanting to make sure we leave with you is that the definition of a next generation ILS, or the direction that web-scale discovery services are going in, they're definitely not mutually exclusive. Once you identify what your need is and what your goals are, there's a lot of flexibility to ensure that you get the best indexing, which would come from our comprehensive index of Discovery Service, and have the ability to choose the solution that works for you regarding your ILS, as well as integration for your institutional repository, as well as the ability to also capture content that comes from neither of those two places, but you would like to make sure that they're displayed for your users. At this point, Rachel, I'd like to open it up to see if we have any questions from the audience.
Actually, yes, we do have one question that's come in. Why would a company purchase a Discovery Service when it's included from an ILS?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I guess to add context to that, when we're talking about discovery, discovery can have different meanings to different individuals. From EBSCO, a discovery service is determined not just by the indexing of the title, which is something you would expect from Google as an example, but we also have layers of indexing that include the subject terms. So in this particular case, I know that this article is about leadership in speeches, not just that it has the word leadership in the title. If you were looking for the title, leadership, then one is fine. But when you're using keywords, which is how most searches are conducted, it's in the layers of metadata that come from a lot of different fields like subject, title, and abstract. And for us, we even have the ability to search within the full text of the articles. That's something that the other services don't have. So especially if you're trying to find a new term of art or something of that nature, that's where you're going to get back a broader set of results that are more relevant. Add to that our ability to integrate subject indexes if you subscribe to them. Even if you don't subscribe to subject indexes, there are some that are available as just being a member of our service. So that's where all of this really comes together to ultimately answer the question that it's not apples to apples. There's different components that go into discovery services that typically aren't part of those free offerings. So all I would say there is conduct your comparison based off of the factors that are defined as a web scale discovery service: indexing, the ability to use facets and see exactly where your information is coming from, who's providing that information, things of that nature, see your source types. If it's not giving you that capability, then it's not what we would define as a discovery service, and I wouldn't say it's comparable. Hopefully that answered the question. Definitely feel free to let us know if there's any additional to that.
Thanks, Chappie. And yes, it looks like we have another question here. With the recent merger of ProQuest and Xlibris, how does EBSCO plan to compete?
Yeah, so that's a good question as well. So we're fortunate in that we have grown organically over time. We're excited to see what happens with the merger. As with anyone else, for today, I think the nice thing is that we have always had open access ability for ILSs regardless of the ILS, including the ILSs available from Xlibris. So right now, you can use our solutions. Again, I showed you a couple of them today. There are more that can be customized based off of your usage case and be productive. So I don't think that the merger really impacts any of the information that I presented. I think it still gives you, the consumer, the opportunity to kind of decide what solutions best fit your needs, and we can accommodate pretty much any of those iterations. Any other questions?
From Beverly, do we integrate with DSpace and Content DM? Do the results get overwhelmed by other EBSCO hosts?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. Let me share my desktop again. And let me just see if we have this from the UN demo. If not, then I can pull up another account to talk to that. And they do not, so no worries. Give me 1 second here. Let me just pull up another tab. So within our product, we typically define catalog as your books or your holdings to that nature. We tend to call your own repository of information an IR. Your institutional repository is something that only you have the metadata for, and you kind of control that. So within our platform, and again, this is the same capability whether I'm accessing it from the EBSCO host, like I showed you with the United Nations, or if I'm accessing it from any of those other interfaces that I showed you. Again, it stays consistent because of our API. We have these two types of limiters. One is called institutional repository, and the other is called catalog only. For your DM space content or your OAI PMH compliant content, we would typically integrate that as an institutional repository. So I can show you what that looks like. If I put in a very generic search here of engineering, and I go down, and actually this might not work. I think we might be doing, let me just see here, yeah. So I apologize. We're doing something to our database now. What would have normally happened is I would have gotten 77 results, and it would have simply been those 77 results that are coming from my institutional repository from metadata that's been exported and contributed by DSpace or your Dublin core information. Typically with catalogs, we would use mark record information. So that's another way to kind of distinguish the difference. But to the point of your question, because we have these limiters as a capability, I can 100% ensure that that information gets visible and isn't lost in this ocean of other information. If I want the ocean, I simply turn off the limiter. If I want to just see my IR content, I turn on the limiter. Let me know if that didn't fully answer your question or if there are any other components to it. Anything else, Rachel?
I don't see anything, and Beverly, I do hope that answered your question. So I think that's it for questions coming in. Oh, she said yes, it answers her question. Great.
For us, this conversation isn't a sprint. It's very much a marathon. It's why we do the webinars, and we try to put them in a fashion so that you can access them and share them with others in your organization that might need aspects of what we've talked about. Continue to let us know what challenges you have. We'll continue to try to address them in a format like this. We definitely appreciate your time, and feel free to forward any additional questions to us that you might have. Other than that, I'll go ahead and end this session, and I, again, appreciate you spending some time with us today.
Great. Thank you so much, Chappie. And this recording will be sent to all registrants as well as posted on our blog at discovery.ebsco.com/pulse. Thank you.